Welcome to the Best Hour of Their Day podcast with your host, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
As both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Best Hour of Their Day. Fern, Ackerman, Springstein, all here for you, talking about the latest news, topics, and trends in the CrossFit world.
Is that what we're doing? And at some point, everybody needs to know what Katie's actual last name is.
Yeah,
Is that not right?
it's Steinspring. Do it every time. Steinspring.
That's what I said.
Springstein.
Happy Hanukkah,
Well,
everybody. If you're listening from the Jewish persuasion, we're on day 2 or 3. It's hard
That's
to keep
right.
track.
Happy to celebrate with you this year.
Yeah. You lighting the menorah? You, Chappie, Logan, you throwing those candles up?
We were just randomly lighting things on fire, hoping that something would count.
Do you get the kids a Hanukkah present, Fern?
We got pizza last night. What's a present?
Is that what's going on? Is this what we've gotten to now? The Fernandez household, Monday nights, kids.
I was
Daddy's had a long
literally
week.
just joking with somebody out in the lobby about this. I got home last night and I asked the kids, like, what do you want for dinner? Well, it was like pizza. And I was like,
Yes.
order out or homemade? And she was like, order out. And I was like, I like where your head's at. We're doing that right now.
How many days in a row is that acceptable right now in your house?
Oh, I mean, like, I think the last time we ordered pizza was like a month ago.
But if you went home tonight again and you asked Logan, what do you want for dinner? And again, she said pizza.
Well, she
Is it
won't. It's
happening?
Tuesday.
What does that mean?
It's Taco Tuesday.
Oh, so you're doing tacos tonight?
Yeah, every Tuesday.
Homemade or Taco Bell?
No, homemade.
you doing homemade tacos?
Every Tuesday, bro.
Oh, really? Well, guess what? I'm going to be in Virginia Beach at your house on a Tuesday, so we'll see how true this is.
Let's see if we can make Jewish tacos. Then we'll try to make them kosher.
Little matzo ball in there. We'll throw some matzo ball, some gefilte fish.
No, I haven't told you guys this. This is how Logan decided she wanted to count down to Jess being home.
How?
Taco Tuesdays.
So how many Taco Tuesdays you have? Is that what it is?
Correct.
So how many from the time Jess left?
What was it, like 56, I think?
Right, because she's gone for like close to a year, right? Or more, it sounds like.
Yeah, more. So I gotta go back and look. I think today is 45.
She's been gone 3 months
well,
already?
we have 2. I mean, we have like 40. Is that right? 50?
Oh.
Yeah, 2.5. So,
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she left in September.
What kind of tacos are we talking? Like, is it always like chicken and some guac?
No, we
or
typically
do you
do like
make
beef. Yeah, we'll do guac. Well, no, we'll do avocados. I won't make guacamole.
You should do. I once had a buffalo shrimp taco. It was really good, like fried shrimp, buffalo sauce.
I'm sure it was great, but that's not what we're having.
Well, I guess that's kind of in line what we were going to discuss today. A lot of things are great. Well, tacos, but things can be great and then done wrong.
You can do anything wrong.
That doesn't mean that the thing is no longer great. In other words, if I put gefilte fish in a taco when I'm at Virginia Beach and I'm like, and you're like, this is terrible, you wouldn't say, I now hate tacos. You would say, hey, I don't like gefilte fish in my tacos.
I just want you to keep saying gefilte fish.
Have you had gefilte fish?
I think once.
Why
I don't even remember where.
When would you ever have had gefilte fish?
I don't know. I have no idea.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
To be fair,
you don't
even know what it is.
Go to the Google machine. All I know is I've been having it since I was a kid. It comes in a jar.
You're the worst Jew of all time.
I believe, and Katie's looking up, I think it's kind of like chuck roast, if you will, where it's just like, hey, let's grab those scraps that are on the floor, put it into a loaf, and let's call it gefilte fish.
I was just watching Yellowstone. I was catching up on Yellowstone the other day on Amazon, and they were talking about she made a stew, and what was it called? And it was the same thing. It was like every piece of the cow was in there. It's basically like the meatloaf of stew.
Is this it?
Let me see what you
Yep.
got.
Is that
There we
right?
go. There we go. Manischewitz brand. So why I like gefilte fish, I personally do.
You can't say you like gefilte fish if you literally don't know what it is, and nor did you. Could you remember the last time you had it? You can't. That's not how this works.
That's not true. I mean, you eat a lot of things you don't know. You eat Doritos. What's a Dorito? You don't know what a Dorito is.
It's a Dorito.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. That's like using the word in a definition. Right. You can't do that.
But my point is, I eat Doritos. You do not eat gefilte fish because you
That's
literally just said. When was the last time you had gefilte fish?
Because
I know when the last time I had Doritos was.
Yeah, this morning. I would say it's always been something where I see it at the store, I'll grab it randomly. It's not like on our shopping list, but when I like the taste of it, and it's like lean protein, which is why I used to eat it a lot more often. Like when I was in like more of the bodybuilding mindset of like lean protein, broccoli, etc. That was one of my go-tos.
Coming soon to a grocery store near you guys. Best hour gefilte fish. So
Dude,
stand by for that promo code. Stand by for that promo code. We'll get that out as soon as it'll be right next to the best hour coffee. And if you haven't bought that, you should buy that.
I'm sure somebody already has the domain name, Best Hour Gefilte Fish. But yeah, good point, Fern. As I'm sipping away at it, Best Hour Coffee. Somebody texted me yesterday and said, wow, I feel like you guys kind of were sneaky and just started selling coffee. Yeah, we were. We put it out there.
Kind of like Katie, sneaky fit.
Sneaky fit, but it's great coffee. I mean, full disclosure, we found a company that we like, Redline Coffee. It's an old buddy of mine. He owns a box in Florida, was sending us some great coffee. And I said, hey, let's brand this as Best Hour Coffee. Good stuff. We have 4 blends. We have AMRAP, For Time, Tabata, and the PR blend. They're all great. Check them out over at besthourcoffee.com. But do we have anything else we need to talk about? Do we have to give a birthday wish to somebody? Did we forget to do that?
We did not forget to do that.
Is that today?
Nope. That's in 2 days.
Don't give it away.
You can go. I mean, we can do it twice, but.
No, don't give it away.
No, forget it. Katie is the holder of what we need to say on these episodes. So anything else we need to say, Katie?
InsideTracker.
InsideTracker, check them out. I'm sure Katie will post the link with this. Check out our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Man, the new episode with Jeremy Thiel and Austin, awesome stuff. OG right there. If you don't know who Jeremy Thiel is, go watch that. And our video guy Nate did a phenomenal job, like pulling in all sorts of clips when we talked about it from the 2008 games. So much great content there coming out on our YouTube channel. So go check it out.
And Get Ahead Productions is Nate. Yeah. Get Ahead Productions.
Yeah. If you don't go watch it, we're gonna make you eat gefilte fish.
Anyway, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I got into an argument on the internet.
I thought that was my job, but I'm glad that you've taken this over.
Yeah, like I used to think you were crazy for fighting on the internet, and I prided myself on never doing it. Now I do it.
Yet here we are. Far right wing and fighting on the internet. That's how it works.
I was telling our coaches development group, here's what happened. Worked a level 2 this weekend. Level 2s are draining from an energy perspective. You're really on. You're giving feedback the entire 2 days. Great weekend here at CrossFit Watchtower, Kevin Ogar's box. And one of our dogs is having some issues, so I had to get a prescription. I'm driving all around to different PetSmarts on a Sunday night, and I open up Instagram foolishly while I'm parked waiting for this prescription, and I see this post. And the post was basically, Katie, can you pull it up?
Do you want me to share it?
We'll put it on the video.
Okay.
You don't think
are
you worried about doing that?
No.
Look, everybody knows what we're talking about. We're talking about active life. And for the record, I have,
Instagram hasn't changed the rules like Twitter did, so you can still share things.
Dr. Sean is a friend. I truly deep down have a lot of respect for the dude. not just from a PT perspective, but he's built a great company. We text often. He knows how I feel about this. And I will give him a shout out in the sense that he and I disagree on a lot, but we fight fair, we fight well, and we talk about it. So, he's been on the podcast in the past. And the post was this: seeing how close to a wall you can squat is a poor drill for squat mechanics, which I suppose rereading it, we talked about this a little bit. That statement in and of itself is not bad. Seeing how close to a wall you can squat is a poor drill. 100%. Because if you try to just simply go close to a wall, you're going to change your squat mechanics most likely, and you're going to change them in a negative way. You're most likely not going to get better. However, the first sentence of the copy there was, this drill is often referred to as squat therapy. So now you're saying squat therapy is dumb because you're seeing how close to a wall you can squat. The reason I got triggered, if you will, is because I don't think what they're saying is actually squat therapy. This is a bad version of squat therapy, and no different than anything else in this world. Just like I talked about with tacos, putting gefilte fish in your taco may make for a bad taco. I mean, I would like it. Maybe, sprinkle a little kosher sea salt on that thing, maybe a little horseradish. You got a nice taco. But if you don't like it, Fern, all of a sudden you and Logan aren't changing your Taco Tuesdays and being like, all tacos suck. You're saying, hey, that crazy dude that stayed with us the other day, Jay, remember him, Logan? Yeah, he's Jewish and he likes gefilte fish. We don't
like Jewish people or gefilte fish.
Or gefilte fish in his house. In his house. Remember I said Jewish people have horns, Logan? Remember I said that to you the other day?
What's frustrating about this is it's not really frustrating. At the end of the day, I really don't care. What it does is it demonstrates a lack of understanding of a topic that you threw out there, right? And to be very candid with you, the only reason we're having this discussion is because this is our lane, right? So you're talking about something that we happen to be experts in, which is teaching CrossFit, specifically squat therapy. It did originate from CrossFit, has been taught for probably damn near 20 years at this point.
For the record, I don't know that it originated in CrossFit. I don't know that to be 100% true.
Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so I stand corrected. I'm not sure of where it was taught that way.
But it certainly gained steam and momentum. I had been in the fitness industry nearly 20 years, never heard of it till my level 1 in 2007.
So, yeah, maybe it's not fair to say that it originated there, but for all intents and purposes, it is a tool used regularly in there. And this post is incorrect. Just factually, we're going to say that it is incorrect. The idea is not to get your toes to the wall, right? And that's what's frustrating, right? So I get frustrated when people talk about CrossFit and they talk about it in the light from a stance where you've clearly demonstrated that you don't know what you're talking about, right? That is not what we're promoting. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that your knees should go past your toes or should not go past your toes. That's a silly statement. So what it is a diagnostic tool. That's what it's for. And to say that this is the idea and this is what you should be pushing towards is incorrect and not what is taught. I have take issue with the same thing with, James Fitzgerald was talking about the programming stuff. And I'm like, you're speaking like somebody who literally doesn't know what you're talking about with regard to CrossFit and what we actually teach. And it's like saying, I saw this thing on the internet, that must be what CrossFit teaches. And I'm like, that's actually not at all what CrossFit teaches. So let's talk about what they actually teach and what it's for.
And big picture for me is, going off that simply this post for a second, and whether it's OPT, whether it's Active Life, whether it's there's dozens of other companies out there. I personally get frustrated. We talk about values a lot in our affiliate U group. We talk about it with our coaches development. My values are health, happiness, family, meaningful work, integrity, and loyalty.
Gefilte
and gefilte fish. Yes, that's at the top of the pyramid. But to me, it's, I don't say lack of integrity. Like, however you want to define it is one thing, but there's so many companies out there that start CrossFit, believe in CrossFit. And then along the way, they're like, this CrossFit thing is cool, but I have a fix for it, or I can do it better, or screw CrossFit. And I was telling our coaches development group earlier, a lot of these band-aids that people are putting out there, and I'm not only referring to Active Life, other companies out there as well. And we're going to have OPT on the podcast, I think, in 2 weeks. But a lot of these solutions are really a reflection of like, hey, some people are coaching CrossFit poorly. Some coaches are misinterpreting the actual definition of CrossFit. Some people are doing CrossFit wrong. So we need to fix that. I agree with, to some extent, that's true. But don't then tell me it's CrossFit's fault.
It's just like anything. If I have a bad surgery, does that mean doctors are bad? Right?
No.
If a vaccine doesn't work, that means vaccines are bad? No. Right? Like, anybody who says vaccines are bad, you're an idiot. Vaccines are good. They saved a lot of humanity. Just because we might have one that is like, I don't know, whatever, that doesn't mean they're bad. Right? So,
agreed. And
same thing, it's a tool, right? And this is what I want everybody to understand. It is a tool, right? This is no different than the progressions, right? So we could use that. We could have the same discussion with regard to the progressions we use in level 1. Let's use the push press, right? Dip and hold, dip drive slow, dip drive fast, dip drive press. It's not about the progression, right? You could say that's a bad progression, and it would be a bad progression if you didn't, in fact, know why you were using it and what you were using it for. And it's the same thing with squat therapy. If you have no idea what you're doing, and the idea is just to put your toes up on the wall to demonstrate that you can do a squat in that position, then we agree that is stupid. But because that's not what it's for. It's a diagnostic tool to take somebody from an immature squat into a more upright squat in order to improve mechanical efficiency. And this is when we can go down a rabbit hole about levers and some other stuff, which we will in just a second. But let's first understand like what the tool is for. When we're talking about an immature squat, what we're referring to is somebody who has a severely, and you talked about this on your Instagram feed. We don't even say severely, some degree of forward inclination of the chest that would create a mechanical deficiency in their ability to move load.
Which, by the way, 99.9% of people have.
I don't know. The good thing about statistics is they're reversible. So you could do that.
You can also forward and backwards percentages.
Right.
Is what you're saying?
They're reversible, right? So,
but picture my point being, almost any human being, let's at least call it in the country, in the United States, has some sort of degree of immaturity in their squat, some sort of lean forward, just from living. I mean, it's highly common. Most likely, most of the people you're coaching will demonstrate some degree of immaturity in their squat.
In a lot of people, it is one of the symptoms of spending a significant amount of time in a seated position. This is what Kelly Starrett has talked about ad nauseum with regard to chairs with the new cigarettes. If I sit in that position, then I'm never going to full range of motion, which one of the things that we talk about with regard to what we're trying to achieve with movement in general in CrossFit, or just functional movements by their very nature, is full anatomical end ranges. Meaning like we need to go to the full end range of that joint, whether it be ankle, wrist, elbow, hip, shoulder, doesn't matter. Full anatomical end range. And when we're talking about that, like these are the things this is what annoys me, is that like you have to be able to understand what these tools are for and why I would be using them in the first place. So for like squat therapy, I can put my toes on the wall, me personally, and do a squat. And I will tell you emphatically, it is not representative of a good squat.
Yeah, if you do that, you're going to certainly overextend your lumbar, right? Because you're going to immediately want to drag your face down that wall. You're probably going to push your knees forward as far as you can, but the wall is going to be in the way. And you're probably not going to be able to achieve full depth.
I can get to full depth, but I'll start to lose lumbar. I won't truly be balanced. I'm not going to be balanced about the frontal plane for sure. Just by the very nature of the wall being in the way, I would not be balanced by frontal plane. And for the reference, and just for reference in this, we would define in the squat frontal plane as about midfoot, right? So roughly over
where the knot of your shoelace,
knot of your shoe would be. That I would want to be balanced.
Velcro, where my Velcro is.
Right, for your kids. So when we're talking about that, what we're using that tool for is to diagnose what a way forward would be in order to get somebody long term from an forward inclinated torso into a more upright torso, in order to have better levers. Cassidy's over here wants to jump in. Have better levers in order to get to a more efficient position.
What's Cassidy have to say on this?
Oh, he's probably just as fired up as you are.
I'm over it a little bit. It's been a couple days, but and again, I get very defensive of CrossFit, and I get defensive of CrossFit for many reasons. One being, it truly was life-changing for me. It continues to be life-changing. I mean, people are saying, well, you have an agenda as well, Jay. Like, what's your agenda? Yeah, my agenda is pushing CrossFit. Yes.
Yeah.
The more affiliates around, we do have a company that helps with affiliates, but I would be telling this to someone who would never own an affiliate. This is not my stance to get more people to sign up for Affiliate U. Now, if more people want to sign up for Affiliate U because they realize, hey, Ackerman and Fern are diehards, they bleed CrossFit. What they're going to teach us is, CrossFit first and foremost, which, by the way, is why I opened a damn CrossFit affiliate. Yeah, that's us. We're the two guys that only work with CrossFit affiliates. We're the two guys that still own CrossFit affiliates, Fern, both of us. And we're the two guys that still do CrossFit to this day. Some of us more often than others. I get it. Like me every day, Fern once or twice a week.
Once
a week. But you know what?
Still fitter than you.
So did you like that post I sent you last night?
Yeah.
It was like, Katie, I almost sent it to you, but then I didn't. It was like you're over 25 and you're in good shape. Like, grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just have let's all agree on a couple things.
Let's do it. Let's agree on something. I'm the best. I got a great affiliate.
Going past, gefilte fish is gross. Going past the toes with the knees is not bad if.
Not bad.
Right. Well, if there has to be, like, we need to clarify that if in fact we're maintaining the rest of the points performance, namely a flat foot with good pressure about midfoot. Okay, so that's first and foremost. So past that, you can have a lot of different things, because this goes into what are we trying to achieve, or what is actually happening from a very practical standpoint. Like, what load are we trying to lift? Where is said load? So Katie, pull up the picture that I sent you real quick, because we could show a picture of an Olympic weightlifter with, at the very bottom of a snatch, with the knees basically stacked right on top of the toes, like almost not forward at all.
And that's just their ability, their flexibility. Most people aren't going to be able to do that. But big picture
But my point is, I want to show this real quick. So this lifter,
that guy's flexible, yeah.
Super flexible, right? But that's because of his stance, right, super upright torso, and because of the way his knees and toes are placed, he's able to, and let's just for reference, the knee probably is just past the toe, but like not far
barely,
at all.
Right,
barely. Okay, and this is, I can't see his lumbar, but I'm going to assume based on this position, and he's snatching 245, or no, those are kilos, I'm pretty sure. So 120. So yeah, so 240, 240, yeah, 242, I believe is what that should be. So now we would all agree that this is a solid squat, and this actually goes counter to the knees must go past the toes in order to have a good squat. It depends on the lifter, and it depends on their anatomy. It depends on what they're doing, because this position may look different if he was doing a clean, but because the load is displaced further from the fulcrum, which would be his hip here, that might change the position just slightly, okay, because it's overhead, not in the front rack position. That changes things, okay? Now, Katie, go to the other picture. There's a lady, I believe that one's from Catalyst Athletics. Shout out Mr. Everett.
Josh Everett. No, not Josh Everett. Greg Everett.
So same position, snatch. However, her knees are way forward of the toes. Same exact lift, different athlete.
That's Amy Everett. I think
that is not Amy. It's not Amy. But knees are way past the toes. Same exact lift, different athlete, different positions. Okay, so we've gone over two athletes doing the exact same movement, different anthropometrics, different outcome, right? So the point of all of this is, one of the things we talk about, specifically in the level 2, is context. What is the athlete doing? What is their capacity? What are they trying to achieve? I have to take all of these things into account when I'm saying yes or no. And again, we've talked about this. You love absolute statements, but the problem is absolute statements will get you in a bind because I can always find a scenario in which that absolute statement would probably not work out, right? Except for like sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and then gravity, right? Like those things are pretty absolute. But when we're talking about fitness, I can always find something that would be counter to that. So we just apply context in that scenario. Now, what would squat therapy be useful for other than diagnosing that somebody is forward? Well, you can use this. So pull up the levers article there, Katie, and show that one. If we go to the article 6, which is a lever efficiency from the CrossFit Journal, this is something where you could use squat therapy to do a very quick diagnostic assessment to determine whether somebody should be high bar back squatting. Go to the picture of the athlete. It's a 2 drawing. It's just a little bit lower than that. This is article 6, by the way. To diagnose whether somebody should be doing a high bar versus a low bar in training based on their anatomy and capacity. So the left picture is a high bar back squat. Obviously, the torso is more upright. The hips are a little bit lower because the knees are forward, right? What this does is it changes the lever just a little bit. Now, if you go to low bar, this might be due to physical limitations, or it might be because they're trying to shorten the lever arm in order to lift more weight, which is why you'll see power lifters do far more low bar back squatting.
Right? I low bar back squat all the time.
There's nothing wrong with low bar back squatting. You should do both.
One other thing, as far as the low bar goes, it also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it gets a little more recruitment of the posterior chain just because we're getting that stretch
just
to
because
the hamstring there.
Right, because because of the change in the mechanics of the movement, right? And if you notice in both of these pictures, one is knee forward, the other one is knee right stacked on top, but this has to do with knee and hip flexibility, or what the athlete's desired outcome in, which might be to lift more weight. Now, the problem with low bar, and I say problem in air quotes because it's not really a problem, is it doesn't transfer as well to the Olympic lifts. If I'm spending the majority of my time in that position, this now becomes problematic for both a clean and a snatch. Okay. And again, what is squat therapy for? It's a diagnostic tool to say, hey, we might need to change something. Or if it's a back squat day, I might need to make a quick assessment on should they high bar or low bar. And then I'm going to need to teach them because the setup for both of those is different on where the bar should be on the back. In combination with, does the athlete have the ability, the shoulder mobility to do a low bar back squat? Because that is also more demanding for most people.
Well, and not to mention high bar and low bar back squatting for a period of time in CrossFit, there was like a debate, like which one should you do? And the answer is yes. No different than pull-ups, right? You do chest to bar, do strict, do butterfly, do mixed
weighted.
grip, do weighted, right? All of those are true. And also, are we going to quickly brush over the fact that I back squatted 325 for a triple and 275 5x5 yesterday? Did you want to talk about that?
I didn't, but I'm glad you brought it up. Congratulations. Are we going to talk about the one time I back squatted 325 for 22? No?
Did you really?
Yeah, I've told you many times I'm way fitter than you.
Well, Katie, wait until the dropping in episode of CrossFit Huddle comes out.
I was making fun of myself yesterday. I've become such a weakling over the past year or so that day my back was bruised because I back squatted 275 for 5.
Yeah, no, it was for 3. To be fair, it was for 3.
Was it 3? Yeah, whatever. It felt like 5.
So your best back squat of 3 was my 5x5 yesterday. But you're fitter. You're fitter. This is what happens at Best Hour CrossFit.
Well, this again, making statements where you don't understand the definition of fitness, right? You've just demonstrated that you take one fitness metric and say that you're fitter than me is not technically correct. So listen, I'll be here all day, everybody, just smashing people's stupid arguments.
Quick, in Jay's
defense, my back squat? Yeah,
in Jay's defense, I did find who invented squat therapy. Jason Ackerman.
Oh God.
Apparently.
That is part of the reason I do get so defensive about it. Like, I love the term. I actually own the domain name, Squat Therapy. It just,
I'm just glad you don't own that haircut anymore.
Oh, man, that was some good hair back then. I just, I really believe in it. And I stand by the statement, like, squat therapy works for everyone. Like, to the degree in which it works is different for everybody, but I can't imagine many people on the planet that, hey, let's squat a little slower. Let me spot you. Let me give you some cues along the way where your squat is not going to improve.
Right. And again, it's a tool. It's a tool to determine what is the way forward. And again, you see, it could be a long, low trajectory to a distant horizon we may never get to, right? Meaning getting somebody to an upright squat. They may never get there, but I still need to make an accurate assessment about what we should do in order to squat, right? So whether we use squat therapy or not, we're all going to have to agree that we should squat. Okay. Now, how do I improve my squat? We can do it a lot of different ways, but this is a good tool. I'm not aware of many people. I'm not aware of actually anybody that I've presented this challenge to and didn't improve one or multiple things. Either improve their squat, their general kinesthetic awareness, or their coaching ability by going through it, because you're going to learn some things about the mechanics of the squat by doing some squat therapy yourself. And the goal is not necessarily to get your toes to the wall. You could be toes to the wall and have all of the points of that is a thing, right? We just demonstrated, like, if that guy, we had that picture up again, like, that guy would have his toes on the wall, and we would consider that to be a good squat because he's clearly demonstrating a snatch in that picture, right? Now, a lot of this will have much more to do with hip flexibility and the ability to pull the hips forward close enough to the wall where you would have essentially an upright torso. Okay. Now, for most people, that is not going to be the case. Most people, if they were, let's call it 5 to 7 inches away from the wall and could stay upright, not touching the wall, we would consider that probably a pretty kick-ass squat if we were to load it.
But let me give you an example. So Dr. Sean sent me a text, and it was Heather Bergeron demonstrating squat therapy while Ben was behind it was very funny because it was clearly so old and,
Right.
outdated. But point is, Heather was touching the wall with her toes, super close to the wall. I'm sure you can Google this, like, out there. Maybe even Katie can find it now. And it's short. It's like 45 seconds, so it's worth a watch. And her form was terrible. Like, she was close to the wall, and in order to do that, she really arched from her lumbar. Did you find it, Katie? And then Ben tells her to go ass to grass, which is also unnecessary. But, this goes back to my statement. Not liking gefilte fish tacos does not make all tacos bad.
Well, also, again, you're not going to do squat therapy absent of all the context of a squat. So what makes a good squat? Okay, so take out high bar, take out low bar, take out knees past the toes, take out all of that stuff, and just put in maintaining neutral spine, good line of action, good balance about the foot or weight in the heels, making sure the knees track the toes within reason, and getting below depth to full anatomical end range, which for most people we'll just define as hip crease below the knee.
Yeah.
Just those things. And that looks like a lot of different shapes when I put 100 different human beings into that position.
All right, you want to watch it real quick? Are we allowed to do this?
Is this it?
I don't. Yeah,
That's
I don't
video.
know.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Do it muted.
She's still fit, by the way.
It is muted. It should be muted.
Do it. I don't know what the rules are now that we're a big deal podcast. I don't know what we're allowed to do. I don't want to get blocked. Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, this is going back. This has to be at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know what space that is.
This girl right here, Heather Bergeron, I think she's had 4 kids. Come on, like,
she's still fit. Okay, so she's got her toes literally on the wall.
And this might have been after 2 kids, which, by the way, is still freaking impressive.
It's old. Okay, she's got her chucks on. So, first error here is you would likely, probably not her first time doing squat therapy, but I would
pause, Katie.
I would definitely urge you to not start people with their toes on the wall. They're probably just testing it just to see if she can do it.
And I mean, immediately look at her low back.
Overextended, right? So immediately you look at her back, she's overextended. It's not crazy, but it's overextended. Okay?
Well, for the record, I want to talk after we watch this video. You and I have taught squat therapy at a minimum, 500 times. We teach it every weekend at level 1s, and then
I mean,
You
just
know,
in affiliate settings between the two of us, we've taught it 500 times.
that's what I mean. I
Just
mean, at
in,
Best
just
Hour
in, just in,
CrossFit,
sorry,
mandatory.
just in seminar settings, not to
Yeah,
mention in the affiliate.
and
So,
every member at Best Hour CrossFit will go through a squat therapy session on a daily basis.
all right. So play the
So,
video real quick, Katie. All right, so she's going through the squat. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should. You're blowing it. Okay, so up to this point, not bad, and
but
then
still,
that starts to fall apart.
I would have backed her up. Like, there's no way I would have accepted this at a level 1 or from a member because she's way too overextended there. And I would
Overextended. However, let's be fair. Practically speaking, overextended in the context of an air squat is not dangerous. So this is not something I'm going to lose my shit over. Okay, it's not what I'm asking for. Okay, so we could just go with like that's not how it's supposed to be executed. I would prefer her to be in a neutral spine position. So ribs
But I
tucked
agree with
down
you.
in a tight position.
That's a point worth reiterating, Fern. Just like anything else in a bubble, it's not wrong. Like this is an unloaded movement. So if you
Right.
were to overextend, I agree with you. It's not dangerous. Now, to be fair, most of the time we're doing this, it's also to see what your squat looks like in a potentially loaded environment. So I wouldn't want her to air squat like this and then be like, well, when we back squat. And realistically, if she were doing any air squat workout, she's not doing them like this.
So the outcome of this is back up, like right to get to a better squat. At which point she would probably have a better looking squat based on the points of performance. Okay, so
100%. We would back her toes up, maybe 3 inches.
Yeah, probably at 5 on the high end. So go play the video,
Katie.
play the rest of that real quick, Katie.
And then she got a little bit of a wink down there.
I mean, that's impressive, by the way, just for range of motion purposes and to stay balanced in that position. So and then she grabs her butt. So good for you, Heather.
All right,
yeah,
let's be clear. Impressive. Like no one's taking that away from Heather Bergeron. That was impressive.
And to note, as she gets to the bottom of the squat, her hips start to move closer to the wall. At which point she has a much more balanced squat than she did just below parallel, or where the hip crease was just below the knee. As she went into further range of motion, she probably resembles more of along the picture of if we had a full profile of the photo that we pulled up earlier with the guy with her knees looking way more balanced with her knees and not past the toes at all, because in that scenario it's physically impossible because of the wall. And so it's context, right? Like, should the knees pass the toes? Biomechanically, should you be capable of doing that? Yes, that's what we like to see in healthy ankle and knee hip mobility. Okay. Is it going to do that when I squat? Well, it depends. Are you low bar back squatting? Are you box squatting? Like, what are we doing? Is it an Olympic lift? Am I air squatting? Am I injured? Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is not squat therapy. The point is a better squat. And we would base a better squat on the points of performance, not on squat therapy.
Exactly. Let's do the following. Here's what I want to do. I want to go through what it might look like when you and I coach squat therapy.
Okay.
All right. So first and foremost, this idea of standing close to the wall is never something that we do. I was telling our group earlier, you and I have been doing this long enough. I can look at someone's air squat and kind of figure out where I need to position them. But if you're unsure, an arm's distance away from the wall is typically a good starting point.
Yeah, that's how I started. The way I start teaching it is, do not put people's toes up against the wall. That's like the intro statement.
Yeah, you need to set them. I always say, like, let's set them up for success.
Right. You're going to look like an asshole if you do that, because they're going to fall down. They're going to lose trust in you as a coach and potentially get injured. It's highly unlikely, but they're going to be embarrassed. So their feelings will be injured. They're going to be embarrassed for sure, which makes me an asshole.
And knocking somebody on their ass once is a very quick and easy way to lose trust forever.
Right. They're like, why would you do that? Why would you set me up for that?
Right. So, and part of this is, we were talking about, well, what about this? What about when people do squat therapy in class? What about, cool. That's not really squat therapy. To me, squat therapy is a one-on-one drill. Almost always the coach stands behind you with that all you bro squat. And what I mean by that is hand supporting them just to allow them to push into a position they barely would not be able to get into if you were not there.
I would disagree with the one-on-one. I think most things would be optimal if I was trying to teach something very nuanced and intricate. But I would go the opposite. If you're going to use squat therapy in a group setting, This isn't just for one person, because the degree of difficulty varies across athletes, and that variable is distance from the wall. So if I've got 10 athletes, I'm going to line all 10 of them up on the wall. I'm going to start everybody from about 12 to 18 inches away from the wall. If I'm reasonably confident that somebody's going to be off balance, I would give them a med ball. And the med ball is twofold. Number one is if they struggle, again, kinesthetic awareness, and they're not sure where depth is, that is the tactile feedback to let them know, hey, this is about depth on most people. Most people. Not you, Jay. Because you're too short.
But I put a medicine ball under almost everybody because, again, it's all about setting them up for success. It's
in
about
that context,
keeping them
you should.
safe.
In that context, you should. And then from there, so it's also if they happen to get off balance, they just have a seat on the med ball and nobody's the wiser, right? They can just stand up and they can move on with their day, with the rest of the drill. And then once we get past the first couple reps, then it's very quick adjustments down the line of like, hey, scoot up, back up, scoot up, move that ball. Okay. And now I've made group. Yeah. So this is a picture of James Hobart doing it. He's not doing it against a wall, but the premise and the feedback is the same. If his hands were to touch this barbell, this is next level coaching squat therapy from the CrossFit Journal. If his hands were to touch that barbell, that would be an indication that he is too far forward in that position. So that barbell now replaces the wall. Okay. And James is a phenomenal squatter, just for the record, largely because he has incredible ankle dorsiflexion, right? That's why he's a great squatter. James, however, I would be a little, critical of you. Sometimes you need to initiate the squat.
That looks right here like he's knee initiating, right?
But James is a phenomenal coach and a phenomenal mover. But the point still remains the same, and he can get into a good position. You can't see that far left portion of the picture, but the point is, so you scroll over. That's a solid squat. Now, if he was to go lower than that, and I know for a fact he can because you've seen it 1,000 times, he's not going to lose any of those points of performance. He's still going to maintain lumbar, spine, and again, let's define that too. So where an unmoving integrated trunk where the natural S curvature of the spine remains wedded to the pelvis. So the pelvis and the trunk are one single unit that do not move independently of each other. So the pelvis and the hip are not separate. And this would also kind of dovetail into a discussion about butt wink. We're not going to go there, but you could have that discussion in this, and this could be a tool in which you could isolate that specific fault or / inefficiency, depending on what you would like to call it. Okay. So the point is diagnostic tool, not how you squat.
So let's go back and talk a little bit more about what we think squat therapy should look like. One of the first mistakes we see is people approach the wall and take far too wide of a stance or turn their toes out. And basically both of those are in an effort to keep their torso off the wall. However, both of those are wrong. Your squat stance...
not necessarily. Toes out is relative. Depends on what you mean when you say toes out.
Toes out further than they would in a standard squat.
Right. Or toes out to the point where the knee no longer tracks over the toe. We have what is now a valgus knee position.
Good point there. So sure, improper foot position. And I tell people your squat should look like your squat should look like your squat, right? Like I'm not a fan of like, well, my feet go... Yeah, your squat stance is your squat stance. So, okay, get in your squat stance. 2, I'm not going to set you up too close to the wall. I'm going to set you up in the appropriate distance from the wall. Now, oftentimes, two major faults happen. 1, we jam the knees forward to keep our torso off the wall. That's wrong.
Which also happens when you teach the front squat because you've been trying to emphasize upright torso. So look for that. It's coming.
Or the overhead squat.
Right, same thing.
Right, you could see someone with a really nice air squat put PVC over their head, and all of a sudden they have a very knee-initiated squat.
Correct.
So let's remove that, right? So okay, we want to still see that proper line of action, but back and down. Then, like we just saw in that video, the most common mistake is we overextend from that lumbar. Like we really think about chest up, and then we gain extension there. For me, I'm constantly giving tactile feedback on their low back, maybe their ribs, like crunch. Be tight there in the midsection because we want to squat with a solid foundation. We want midline stabilization. So, we make sure everything remains consistent. And what that becomes is a lot more effort, typically for people to gain ankle mobility, right? That's for most people, it's tight ankles that cause that immature squat. So it's gaining some of that ankle mobility. It's gaining awareness. It's forcing them to drive their knees out a little further. It's really just, when you say diagnostic, it's like, okay, what's your weakness when it comes to your squat? Because
Right.
we're going to find out right now here against the wall.
Now, just for reference, again, I think we could go through all these scenarios. There do exist scenarios where athletes, in order to get to a really good looking squat, would not need to put their knees past their toes. That variable is based on what they can do with their hips, meaning like how wide can they go. And we're talking about knee angle now, knee angle either straight forward versus out. If I can widen my stance or go into a more splayed out position, as long as I'm not compromising my stance, what that does is it creates more room for the hips. So if I can get my femurs out of the way, now there becomes a more direct line of travel for the hips to move along the frontal plane. Now, not everybody can do that. Now, because both the pictures that guy, particularly with that guy, if you look at his knee angle, most people would consider that to be, I don't know if it would be considered extreme, but not normal. And I don't mean normal in a bad way, but like most people could not achieve that kind of a mobility, right, where the knees are out far, but his knee is tracked directly over his toe. This is a great looking squat as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah.
But most people are really going to struggle getting that kind of like mobility, or kind of what you would consider like a split, like if he was sitting in kind of a split or a straddle, like that kind of mobility out of the hips. That will limit the amount of dorsiflexion at the ankle, to get the knee out in front of the toe required to get to a good depth, maintaining neutral spine. So there's, again, multiple factors here that I have to take into account when assessing whether something is good or bad, but they're all based on points of performance. What you just demonstrated, but I'll kind of break out, is what the squat therapy was allowing you to do was focus more on certain things, because squat therapy inherently gives the athlete the feedback on other things, like the med ball for depth, the wall if they're too far forward. Okay. If their knee initiating the wall is there, it's just an added tool to create awareness. That is what squat therapy is for. It is not the end all be all tool. It is a tool. And just like any tool, if you do not know how to use said tool, you're doing it incorrectly. If I have a hammer and I go around trying to use it as a screwdriver, I am not going to be very effective with said hammer. That doesn't mean that hammers are bad. It just means I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with the hammer.
Well, and that was my biggest argument, my biggest beef on this particular post, but again, it extends beyond that, where it's like just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, cliche expression, is not a good way to live. Like, just because some coaches coach it wrong, even of the highest level, that doesn't mean this drill is no longer effective. And when people are telling you that, circling around the answer does not help. Like, address it. Like, give us your reasons, or give us solutions. Less drunk monkeys. Hey, this doesn't work. Cool. What do you think works better? And again,
or you don't know how to do that. Okay, which any drill, right? If you don't know how to accurately do something, right? I'm not going around giving people FMS, a functional movement screener, because I don't know how to properly do that. So I'm not going around doing it. If you don't know how to teach squat therapy, then I suggest you either not teach it or learn how to teach it, and then use it, because it is a great tool to add to your tool belt as a coach to help you do two things: assess somebody's movement about what the way forward is, and isolate faults to make it easier for you to see what is going on, particularly as a new coach. The knee-initiated squat, which is a violation of line of action in that movement, can be very difficult to see as a new coach. That is one of the things that you could use squat therapy for. One of the many things you could use it for. It doesn't mean that you have to do it all the time. It doesn't mean it is the only way to assess squat movement. It is a tool. And again, like any tool, if you use it incorrectly, well, then it's not a useful tool.
I think assessments are stupid.
Particularly if they're cognitive.
No, I just think I said this in our coaches.
I thought the same thing in college. I said the same thing in college. I'm like, this assessment of electrical engineering is stupid, because I don't understand it.
No, but I said this in our coaches group. I think assessments are your way of masking your inability to coach. I said it a little harsher in our group.
I think Kelly Starrett outlined this pretty well. There's a difference between understanding a correlate of movement and movement. So you can do a movement assessment that is a correlative movement, but is not actually movement per se. There's a difference. One gives you some information, maybe not entirely accurate to an actual movement. So I don't think assessments are dumb. Again, I think if you don't understand what assessments are for, that is dumb.
Yeah, but I think too many people. I mean,
He's like,
that's
fuck.
fine. But I think too many people rely on assessments like this company and other companies out there. It's like assess, or become a better coach. Because at the end of the day, this CrossFit thing works. Constantly varied. Functional movements at high intensity works. One of the first mistakes people make, oh, we don't need high intensity every day. You've said it over and over again. 70% plus. Let's call that high intensity. You don't need to wind up on the floor in a puddle of your DNA to have high intensity. You need to move a little bit out of your comfort zone. That's really, let's call it high intensity. It's like I'm moving a little bit faster than I would want to otherwise. That shit works. Doing these movements with technique and intensity, like we talk about at the level 1, with that balance, that works. Most of the time, people are arguing against CrossFit. It's because we're neglecting these rules, and that, or tools, not rules, whatever you want to call it. We're saying, hey, CrossFit doesn't work because people go too hard and they hurt themselves. No shit. That's not what CrossFit is. Hey, CrossFit doesn't work because people often use poor technique. No shit. That's not what CrossFit is. But I don't need an assessment to determine where you should squat. I should be a good enough coach that when I look at you squatting, I'm like, hey, turn your toes in a little bit. Yeah. Hey, widen your stance a tiny bit. You're going to, hey, does that feel better? Yeah, cool. Assessment done. That was your assessment. You're in a shitty squat stance and I moved your feet 1 inch. Cool. Like, I'm a PT now. Like, that's all it takes. Like, I just think all of this nonsense, it's like...
Shout out to all the PTs out there who were just wildly offended.
No, I think one of the people in the group asked, like, how do you argue with someone who has credentials, blah, blah, blah. It's like, credentials don't make you, a Svengali. Is that the term?
Well,
like, all-encompassing. Like, credentials...
Yeah.
Credentials probably mean you know a little bit more about me than anatomy and physiology. I'm not going to deny that. But I'll tell you what. All the credentials in the world...
That's where the distinction means, because if you're a physical therapist, then you know far more about certain things than I do. But that doesn't mean that I don't know anything about movement. It also doesn't understand that I don't understand movement better than you, because my specialty is looking at movement, and I'm pretty damn good at that. And I don't even think the pissing contest is necessary. It's just like, dude, understand, that's a tool that you clearly don't know how to use or know what it's for. That's fine. If a PT wants to use FMS and I'm like, FMS is dumb, and he's like, well, you don't know how to use the tool. And I'm like, touche, you are correct, sir. I do not know how to use said tool. So I'm not going around saying that it's dumb.
I don't know how to do FNS. I think it's dumb. But
FMS,
anyway,
so, yeah.
Exactly. But, and then
functional
in addition
movement
to that,
score, by the way.
All of
which is odd, because nothing about that assessment is functional in my mind.
Yeah, I was telling the group today, my best assessment is like, hey, welcome to Best Hour CrossFit. I'm going to have you sit on this bike and we're going to talk for a few minutes about your goals. And now in those 5 minutes, 10 minutes on the bike, I'm going to probably move the damper up a little bit every couple minutes, keep talking, see how their breath is, see if they can continue to hold the conversation while pedaling, see what damper we get up to. Like, that's my assessment. Okay, cool. Everything else is me coaching you. Like, I know what a good squat is. I know what a good jerk is. I know what a good push-up, whatever those moves. So I'm going to assess you and your ability to hold these points of performance. And when you're not, I'm going to consider what alternatives we have. But all the credentials in the world don't, I mean, look, I've got a pretty fucking good credential, and I'm not even talking about my L4. I'm talking about my master's degree. I have a master's degree in psychology. People forget that. And it's like, that's what allows me to connect to people. You having any other credential out there, be it an MD, a PT, I don't even know what they are, but whatever the PT credential is, DPT, I think.
DPT,
like,
Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Cool. That might mean you know more about anatomy. That doesn't matter if you can't connect with other people.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, here's the big takeaway. Use squat therapy or don't. I actually don't really care. But it is a useful tool if you know how to use the tool. And you'd be hard-pressed to convince me or anybody else that does know how to use the tool that knowing how to do that isn't somehow going to be useful at some point down the road, right? If you think it's dumb, it's probably because you don't understand the tool. So learn it or don't. But outside of that, stay in your swim lane. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.